Welcome to Malibash Media, everyone. I am your host, Ashley, and today we have a talented guest artist, Ryan Sims, with us. And are excited to have him on our first launch for a real live show on Malibash Media. Ryan, how cool is it to be here today? We're excited to have you.
Sweet. I'm glad to be here. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm so excited. Ryan's super talented, and we're going to be jumping into some of his work, and he's going to talk and share a whole bunch of it. So if you guys would like to, please add some comments and also send us messages if you would like us to ask some questions for Ryan on any of our social media pages. Make sure you follow us so that we can get those messages and ask Ryan at the end of the show, so that you can kind of connect that, create that personal connection with him as well. We created Malibash Media to spotlight artists and professionals in the business. And we are, right now launching not only Malibash.com, which is a platform that houses all types of media professionals. And right now we're working towards more of the go-to for companies that are hiring for all their company commercials and film advertising needs. So definitely check us out on Malibash.com. If you're not able to listen to the whole live with us, we will be reposting this onto our websites on articles and videos, and then also onto our YouTube page. So check us out there because we are live currently on LinkedIn and YouTube. So let's dive into the good stuff here and talk to Ryan. He is a cosplay and fashion photographer, CGI extraordinaire. I mean, what should we say, like superhero type person, real life superhero.
Sure, we'll go with that. We'll go with that.
Yeah, right? I was thinking about that. I was like, he's a real life superhero. This is good. So Ryan, tell us a little bit about you, where you are, and how you got to where you're at currently. Just give us a little deal.
Oh, man, I always debate, like, how far back do I go for this story? It's like, well, we start at birth, and my mother's womb. We go from there. So I'm originally, let me turn my volume down. I think I might have had a little bit of there you go. I'm originally from Laurel, Mississippi. Born and raised there. Brother and I, real super nerdy. We're still super nerdy, so I can't, can't escape it.
You guys are cool nerds.
Yeah, well, it's cool to be a nerd now, right? Yeah. So grew up with comics and movies and games and everything, and obviously that carried over quite well into adulthood. And oh gosh, I'm trying to figure out, like, how do I get here? I moved to Nashville, Tennessee. My wife and I both loved music, so we initially moved here for music. I went to school for digital entertainment and game design, which kind of introduced me to Photoshop, which is where I, fell in love with Photoshop. And then I started getting several photography jobs from there. So it's like, wanted to learn photography to help the Photoshop, and Photoshop was helping the photography. And so they worked well together. And then, at some point I just kind of was like, all right, what kind of stuff does Ryan want to do? and this links back to the childhood, and doing all the fun superhero stuff. And so, I mean, to make a really long story incredibly short, that's kind of me in a nutshell.
No, I love that. That's fantastic. And I know you talked about, like, getting started in doing that portrait photography, and that kind of helps to grow you up into doing the cosplay and everything. And by the way, if anybody knows how to get Ryan a sponsorship by Adobe for Photoshop or anything, let him know, because he's really great and totally deserves that. And we're going to see some of his work here really soon.
That'd be awesome.
But if you guys to find Ryan, you're going to want to go onto ryansimsphotography.com, or you can find him on Ryan Sims on Instagram and all kinds of places.
YouTube
that
and all that stuff.
And stuff. So I would highly recommend that you can find him and watch his work, because he's really fantastic. So I found Ryan on Instagram and absolutely couldn't believe that this was created by you. I was just like, this is just somebody who's like taking, if you think of like a Marvel poster from some sort of Cinemax feeder. This is his work. And I was thinking, oh, this is somebody copying and pasting, stuff that they've taken. But no, this is legit. And you guys should definitely check it out. But Ryan, you get to share some of that with us. And I want you to talk about some of your favorite pieces, some of your favorite things to work on. How long does it take you to work on a project? I know we talked about this a little bit. I know the audience would be really cool for them to find out, your processes to all of it, because this to me looks like it should take a couple, like a week. But how long does it take you to create a masterpiece? And what do you like to do more? I know we talked about like fashion and your portrait. You have a lovely family that you've done things with. So what do you enjoy focusing on the most?
Oh gosh, so many questions there. We'll work in reverse. We'll start with your last. I guess it really just depends. I mean, people ask me what's like the favorite thing you've ever done. I'm like, I probably haven't done it yet. It's the next thing. That's my favorite one. There are times where I feel like I work on things that are like intricately detailed, and to me they're really cool, but just because of the amount of detail that goes into them. But I tell people all the time, and it was something that I grew up with, the mentality of less is more. And so like I really enjoy just portrait work that's just simple, visually stunning, and there's not really a whole lot of intricate detail. It's just simple, but it's beautiful, and so I don't really have a favorite. It depends on what mood I'm in that day, I guess. But but I definitely resonate very strongly with the less is more mentality, because a lot of times people try to make their composites super, super busy, and they can look epic and amazing. And I'm all for that. But sometimes, the very simple, are the most compelling, or eye catching. So I guess I'll share my screen real quick so you can kind of see what I see. I'm just I'm screen sharing my Instagram account right now, just simply because it is basically the biggest body of portfolio work that I've got out there. It's just everything that's on Instagram. And so and
I love this because what you're saying is less is more. I've done modeling, and so you capture just some of the best poses, and your lighting's so on point. I've seen some photographers just butcher even the prettiest person. So this is just absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you. Well, I brought it up, and I've scrolled a lot to get here, but I bring this one up a lot just because there was a lot of planning involved in it. Obviously, this was, was it? No, it was this year. What is time anymore? I know, right? This was March of this year, but we had planned it well into the previous year, because we had shot it in December of 2020, but we planned for months before that, because we knew that the Snyder Cut was coming out, and so we wanted to kind of do something that was paying homage to that. And all of these guys are all super talented, like custom made their suits, and they're all like cinematic quality and just like super awesome people. They did the black and white version. So you got Tim and Kinsey and Mark, and that's Tim again as the Flash. And then we have, he was new to me. I forgot his name because I'd met him that day. It's somewhere in the comments. But I had to like CGI parts of his body. So that was new to me because, I was new to CGI at that point. And then of course,
how long have you been doing the CGI part of it?
The CGI part. So literally this year, I took a course with ProEDU. My friend Dustin Volkema, he was the instructor for it, and that was like in January. And so really it was this year when I kind of like dove. It was a 6-week course, so like dove headfirst into the CGI realm. And it's just been like,
I mean, you're way ahead of the game. This is top notch work. I mean, seriously.
But it was cool because it did catch the attention of Zack Snyder himself, and he shared it on his Instagram account, and that was really, really cool for us as fans who are wanting to pay homage to, this awesome his awesome version of the movie, and just all the planning. So it was nice because there was a lot of planning and work that came together to kind of make it come together. Come together.
I love it.
And so that's why it's memorable for me. And plus, I've just become such good friends with all these people. And so that's one that kind of sticks out in my mind just because of the amount of time and planning and detail that kind of went into it.
Well, these guys are so lucky too. I'm slightly jealous because they have these huge photos for their portfolio. I mean, like they can just, say, "Oh yeah, this is me and this is me," and show it off to all their friends too. So I think that's some really great bragging rights. And I just love too how you can do the dark and you can do the light. You can do really exquisite detail, and then you can also do like really great simplistic. It's not simplistic though. It's just got some great depth. And like I said, the lighting and everything. Where do you shoot most of these at?
Here's another good example of less is more. Like I love just shots like that. There's no Photoshop. It was just simple, So that whole photo shoot, just that specific photo shoot was actually just done in, so this is Mark, and this was all done in Mark's living room. So like, it wasn't any like high-end studio or any place like it was in his living room. And that's the beautiful thing about, Photoshop is that you can kind of do anything anywhere. I've done a lot of work, at Studio 615 in Nashville. I've gone to locations, I've gone to cons and shot, but like really, if you look, and this is primarily the Photoshop work, probably the majority of all the things I've ever shot have been shot in my tiny 1-car garage at my house. And so,
God, that's awesome.
So that's, again, the beauty of Photoshop is that you can kind of be anywhere,
Yeah. I mean, I think something with COVID that's helped kind of almost get very creative is realizing that, sometimes you can make little things just work just as well as, the big studios and all the extra fluff,
For sure.
And that's definitely the case here. But I just, I love, how do you get the inspiration for a shoot? I know obviously you have your jobs you have to do, but like for fun shoots, where do you get that inspiration?
Sure. Oh man, everywhere. No, honestly, and I've got my computer up, so I'll just show you. I just, I get a lot of inspiration from Pinterest. So I'll create like mood boards and just gather a lot of different inspiration. So if I drag this over here real quick and kind of pull up, you can see I've got like boards for days, fantasy art, and you click into fantasy art and you've got like a bunch of different cool mystical fantasy, powers, all this kind of cool stuff. And then I just look at the lighting. I'm just like, ooh, this is a cool dramatic mood, but then this one's really vibrant and colorful. And it depends on the project, honestly. Like, for example, like when we did the whole Justice League thing, or did the whole, we did like an X-Men shoot and all kinds of other stuff. But like I created a whole board specifically for them. And for that kind of stuff, it was like a lot of inspiration was from comics and from even from fan drawn art, you get a lot of ideas for cool poses. You get a lot of cool poses, cool ideas for lighting, composition, all the colors and color schemes. So it's really, to make something, I guess it's not really complicated. It's just the fact that we just grab as many things, like that looks cool and that looks cool and that, let's put it all together and then let's try to execute what we think will be the best for this specific type of shot. And then we'll move from there. But yeah, that's ultimately what we do is that we gather inspiration from movies, from games, from comics, all the things I was talking about at the beginning, kind of loops back around.
Exactly. Well, I love that I'm not the only one that has like hundreds of pictures on my Pinterest board. Yeah. I think we all go to Pinterest. I understand, that free advertisement Pinterest, but I think we all understand that creative side where you just kind of need to go and say, hey, that's cool. That's a cool idea. And then that's the cool part about it is that you're talented enough to bring that all together and create some fantastic, artwork.
I appreciate it.
That's really cool. Yeah. Where is your dream with this? Like, where do you want to go?
Oh man.
How much farther do you want to go with this?
How much farther? How far can we go in a good way? Yeah, I mean, I would absolutely love to, do stuff with Adobe and Photoshop. I would love to do stuff with like Marvel in DC. That'd be great. But honestly, I mean, even if I were to stay where I'm at doing what I'm doing right now, I'd be content with that, just because you get to form relationships with these people. They're your clients, yes, but I mean, they kind of become your friends a little bit, and it's, I love meeting new people. I love getting to know them, getting to know their story, how they ended up where they are. And if all it was just getting to make new friends and create cool content, with them, I'd be content with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really think, I mean, you do classes, right?
I do.
You've done some classes. I really think that you should, continue that, because I think people just absolutely love. I know you do some lives where people can kind of watch you real time doing stuff, which is really fun. I kind of popped in on one of those not the other day, and I was like, wow, that's really cool to kind of see it in real time, because you're just like so fast at it. And I'm trying to figure out if you speed it up or if that's just you, how fast you are at it.
Well, I mean, if it's live, then it's
live. Wow, he's moving really fast, so that's really cool.
Well, I mean, when you kind of get in the habit of, like, I guess you could say, well, I don't know. I mean, I was telling you the other day that, the first cosplay shoot I really ever kind of did was like in 2017, but I've been doing photography and Photoshop for longer than that. So when you've done it for like 10, 15 years, almost every single day, it kind of becomes, you pick up a flow to it. You should be getting fast. If you're not, then you might be doing something wrong, but it takes time, it definitely takes a lot of time and practice for sure.
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. What was one of your favorites? Well, what's another one of your favorite projects? I think you showed us one of them, but what was one of, like, I don't know, one of your first really big group projects that you did that you just really loved? And
let's see.
Kind of was a fun challenge.
So the first, oh gosh, so the first one I ever did was like I photographed my best friend as Harry Potter. That was the first one.
That's awesome.
I photographed my best friend as Harry Potter, and that turned out really, really cool. But I always talk about this one just because it was like the first big project before I kind of got into cosplay, I guess. And I was never really looking to get into cosplay. It just kind of ended up being a great outlet for me to kind of get this creativity out, But I'll share my screen again. So this was just a recreation. Like we weren't trying to do anything new or fancy. We're just trying to recreate the Gotham thing from season 1 of the TV show Gotham. And so I live in Smyrna, which is right by Nashville. And so you can see this is the city of Nashville, which is what we call the Batman building, because it's got the little, it's the AT&T building, but everyone calls it the Batman building. Nice. And so I was like, we'll call it Nashville. I'm like, wait, no, that's a show too. So I can't, we'll just call it
That's true.
Yeah. But it was fun because I just called on a bunch of different people. This is my father-in-law. This is my wife. This is me. This is my mother-in-law. This was a friend from church, photographer friend. That's my best friend that I photographed as Harry Potter, before all this. Nice. Another photographer friend, someone from church, another photographer friend, a model. So like it was all people that I knew that I just called and was just like, hey, I just want to do something fun. Let's just see where it goes. And this honestly kind of gave me the idea for the series I have on YouTube that I'm wanting to keep going with is the From Raw to Real, which is where we kind of look at and analyze like TV show posters, movie posters, how did they light this? How is it lit? How did they Photoshop it? So it's kind of taking an image from the studio or from camera raw and making it into a real image. So like, that's why I was like from raw to real. So, and so that kind of sparked the idea for that. So that was one of the first ones, which led to this photo shoot. This isn't the actual, well, they used it as a promo for a Photoshop plugin. But this image with Batman and Wonder Woman, they actually live in Murfreesboro, which is like 15 minutes away from me. And so they had a really cool Batman and Wonder Woman suit. And I was just like, hey, come on over. Let's just do a fun, let's just, not going to charge you. Let's just do this for free. And so, and then it ended up being really, really cool. But this couple, Adam, it's funny. Adam like Adam West. And then Shannon Prince, like Diana Prince. That's their real name, you know, like Adam and Shannon Prince. So they were the first cosplay couple that I photographed. And then from there, it just kind of, in the best way, spiraled out of control to where like, hey, photograph me as this character. And so they're memorable to me because they were like the first cosplay couple I really ever photographed. So
that's cool. And all that stuff, was that theirs that they just brought over with them, or where do you guys get most of the equipment from?
Yeah, like, so I don't know, like if they, I think this suit, the Batman suit, was probably bought from Reeves Effects. I think he's actually really big, predominant, kind of in that film, but he does like a lot of Batman suits and stuff out in LA, I think. And I don't know where she got hers, but they, so a lot of times either people create their own or they piece it together through different companies and kind of, form it together. But a lot of time and effort and money goes into all of it, regardless.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I know the cosplay stuff can be really expensive, especially if you pay for the really good quality stuff, and then adding everything in there and the software to edit it and all, lighting and things like that. Now, for lighting, I wanted to get back to this question for you. How did you learn about lighting? Like, where did you learn how to do it? Was it something that just kind of natural to you? Because obviously you have a very natural eye for lighting. But some people study this. I mean, it's, a huge part of filmmaking and photography.
Sure.
Lighting world.
Yeah.
So besides, knowing that golden hour is, between this time and this time, how did you learn?
Depending on the year, or like what time of year it is. Yeah. Actually, I got a photo shoot after this, and I was just like, "What time is sunset?" And it's like around 4:30, which normally it's like, around the 6 or 7.
7:30, almost 8.
But no, that's a great question. So I, like I was saying, when I got into school and I started learning Photoshop, like my first job ever in photography was like at Portrait Innovations, and I didn't. It was really very much a point and click type of job. So I didn't really learn a whole lot there as far as how to become like a better photographer, because I didn't understand camera settings. I didn't understand lighting. It was all kind of preset for you. So it was kind of felt like cheating almost. It's like, you just go, it's like, you just make sure that you capture the moment. It's like all this will do the rest. Exactly. But then I worked at a senior photography studio. And I worked at 2 of them, but the second one was like a family owned. I guess I'll just try to get into details here. So I used to work for like Life Touch, which is like a high school, or they call it Prestige Portraits now, I guess. And that's where I kind of got my feet wet as far as like getting, I've got this picture up just kind of show like a studio setting with lighting. Getting used to like palsy buff lights and how to use strobes and the transmitter receiver, how to like wirelessly, sync that to your camera, and and then camera settings, f-stop, shutter speed, ISO, learning like, what is that and what does that mean? So that's kind of where I got my feet wet. But then I worked at a family-owned senior photography studio where like I really had the freedom to explore and to like just have fun. And I actually lived like right across the street from it. So like, and I'd become really good friends with the owner, and he was just like, yes, like anytime you want to just come over and like, he was like, use like, you can photograph your wife or photograph whoever, just like, as long if you need to practice or whatever, go for it. And so he had everything, he had all the lights, all the camera gear, all the color gels, just all that stuff. So I really got to play around and have the freedom to learn and to grow. And that was a great learning experience, because that's really where I got very involved in portrait photography and understood lighting and like, Rembrandt lighting and like butterfly lighting and, everything from dramatic to like, what is a main light and a fill light? What are their purposes, and rim lights and hair lights and all this stuff.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And so, and it very much kind of looked like this. You'd have like a background and you'd have like your main light, your fill light, or, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And so, and so that's really where I kind of got to explore and learn those things. And of course, all the while, like learning Photoshop as I'm doing all this stuff and trying to implement what I've learned with what I've learned. And so, that's really kind of where I got to really grow, is working at that job. And it was really, really cool because my boss was very, very supportive of that and very encouraging. And so,
That's amazing. It sounds like, a whole bunch of lighting. I mean, some of that stuff.
Right.
I don't even understand what a butterfly light is. So there. But do you like? Do you is this part of your classes that you teach too? Do you go into a little bit of the lighting, or is it mostly just on the uh, CGI
Sure. Yeah.
side?
So we do talk about it a little bit. So let's see how many moons I have to scroll up to. So the course, the digital workshop that I actually have at the moment, primarily deals with like kind of all the crazy Photoshop compositing, all that stuff. However, we do kind of hit all the main points in it. I have thought seriously about kind of breaking down and just doing like a more simple version of like just lighting and not diving into all the different categories.
Yeah.
And not diving into all the different categories. Overwhelming. Of course, I'm scrolling far because that I can understand where that gets so far. Because that I can understand where that gets so far. Because that I can understand where that gets so far. Because that I can understand where that gets so far. Here it is. Yeah. Do this. I'm like, where is my stuff? But to do this, I'm like, where is my stuff? But to do this, I'm like, where is my stuff? But to do this, I'm like, where is my stuff? But to do this, I'm like, where is my stuff? But hopefully the volume's not turned up a whole lot and then the type of lighting that's primarily used in like movie posters, that's kind of what we more along the lines of what we dive into, kind of like that 3-point or more lighting where there's at least 3 lights or more involved.
Got it.
But yeah, it talks about lighting, retouching, dodging and burning, adding atmosphere to your image, extracting your subject. How do we, make sure our perspective and size and horizon line match up to where it looks somewhat believable and all that. So that's what we go into in the digital workshop. But yes, I have to say all that to say that, yes, I definitely have thought about doing one that was just more portrait photography based. And so I don't know when I'm going to do that, but it has been in the back of my mind for a long time. So normally when it's there for a long time, it means it's probably coming soon. So.
Yeah, no, that's great. And this sounds like a really great opportunity to workshop too, because I mean, just to have all that detail kind of from start to finish where it looks like you start the concept, storyboard part, and then you move all the way through the setup, where it's at, the lighting, the background, and everything else, which is what is the best way to learn because you can see the whole process. It's not just one part of
in this we definitely
because
it's like 10 plus hours of
you
content.
get to see the whole piece.
Probably could have been a lot more.
It's just a really
but yeah, I mean, it's definitely a lot of content. So I definitely think that the information is there. You know what I mean? And then of course, once we talk about those different things, there's like 3 full-length tutorials on those 3 images. So literally we are going from raw to real, from camera raw to making our final image a reality, and just kind of talking about all that stuff. So yeah, it's a lot of information. Like, it definitely takes patience, because you were saying before, like, how long does it normally take? It totally depends on the concept. I've gone through some that only took like an hour, and then there are others that take 4 hours or 8 hours. Some of them take like 2 or more days because they might involve more people to cut out, or you have to, like, if I'm rendering something in CGI, you have to let it render, and it might have to render overnight so you can come back to it the next day and then start implementing it into Photoshop. And so that it's completely, there's no clear answer to that. It's always based off of the concept and how much is involved. Yeah, a lot of people go through like entire photo shoots in that amount of time, or maybe more than
an hour to 8 hours.
Well, I mean, if it's not like really Photoshop based, like if it's just like like a family shoot or something like that, and it's just or at least I've known people to kind of quickly it's like you do your settings for one in Lightroom and it's like apply all, and then it's like, oh, we're pretty much done now, and then it's like, oh, I spent all day on one image.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yours
Yeah,
has a little bit more
it is.
depth,
It can be
not saying that
frustrating because
anybody
you're just like, what
else's
did you
is
do today? I'm
bad,
like,
just
I
saying that you got add a little bit
edited
more
one image.
to
That's all I
your
did.
to your
But you're
pictures.
right. But there's a lot more involved for sure.
So, right, exactly. Well, a lot of levels too. I mean, if you're doing it in Photoshop, I don't know how
Oh yeah,
CGI
it's
necessarily works, but I
we
mean, I know
dive
there's
deep
so
into
many
the
different
rabbit hole.
levels too, and I'm sure
Yeah.
most of your pictures have a whole ton of levels and a bunch of different depth to it. Yeah. What do you find helpful to? I'm sure you're always learning because it seems like you're just growing and hungry for more. What is your where do you like to learn from? Where are some of the best places that you have
Sure.
taken classes from online? And I know you learned all that wonderful lighting and the
Yeah,
portrait
well,
and
I
everything
mean,
from
don't
an
get me
actual
wrong, man. Like
studio and somebody that
YouTube
was there.
and Google
But
were my
I
teachers and
mean,
still are
have
my teachers to
you
this
done
day.
anything else? I
And they're
mean,
good
YouTube. I
teachers.
don't know. Like, what have
I
you?
will say that, every now and then, at least for me, and it normally happens around like this time of year, like when things start to slow down the end of the year, where you kind of look back and it's kind of like this, the post-mortem of the year. It's just like, what all did I do? What all did I accomplish? And do you feel like you're stuck in a rut and like you're like you've plateaued? It's like you're here, but you want to get here, and like how do you do that? And I felt that way. I get there all the time. Um, it's like, and it's funny because I look at other artists who I feel like are light years beyond me, and they feel the same way. It's like everyone's kind of their own worst critic. You look at them like, oh, but your work's so good, and they're like, but your work's so good, and you just kind of fan out over each other. Right. But no, I have, in my experience, always
The more
felt
you've been
like
through a
I
practice, right? You never feel
was
like
able to
you're
kind of
quite
surpass
done.
that plateau when I found another photographer that was either doing what I was doing or, was just light years beyond me. Or maybe just had the experience or like the awards to back it up. And I, and in all seriousness, like I took their class. Like I remember there's a photographer from Finland. His name is Antti Karppinen, and yeah, so Antti Karppinen, yeah, and so but Antti is a super awesome guy, and he's like won international photo competitions, and he's just like he's an amazing guy, but he's also an amazing artist. And I took his digital artist masterclass, I think maybe like 3 years ago, and it was just like mind blowing. A lot of it was very edifying because you were just like, I don't really have anybody to compare myself to. It's like, I'm glad to know that I'm on the right track as far as some of these things go, but like, I would have never thought to use that technique or to do this. And I'm so glad that I took this because now I know, and I've learned something that I'm going to forever use now. And so there have been a couple of times where I've gotten to do that, and it just really kind of helped me grow as a photographer. And also, like last year around this time, there's a photographer in New York named Chris Knight, and I took his like Rembrandt, finding Rembrandt course, and it was just on lighting, and it kind of inspired me to want to do like a lighting course of my own, just because it was so thorough. A lot of it was as far as my experience goes was kind of basic information. It was stuff that I already knew, but sometimes it's really, really good to refresh yourself on the basics because, in the midst of doing all of this crazy stuff, sometimes it's good to go back over the basics. You know what I mean? It's like, because if you lose that foundation, then it doesn't really matter
Right.
how fancy you can get in Photoshop. It's like, if you don't have a good foundation, then it's, you know, you know.
That's amazing, Ryan. And I appreciate you like still working hard to make sure that you go back to the basics, and keep growing and keep learning, and you're not just stuck in a like, okay, this is what I do, this is my avenue. And I think that's what makes you so versatile as a photographer too, and a designer and artist, and all the CGI and everything, is because you're always growing and you can do so many different facets, and you got such an open mind to it. You're the light, or the dark side, or you're not in just one genre, which is totally fine, for certain photographers and everything. But you just have such a wide range of things that you can do. and do well. And they don't all look the same. There's so much uniqueness to them. So congratulations on
man.
that. And it's been really fun getting to talk to you, Ryan. Is there
so many
anything
Michael
else
Scott quotes are coming up from the office.
It's
like, don't ever, for any reason whatsoever, to anyone, for any reason. If you know The Office, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, oh man, you know, parting words of wisdom. What could you possibly learn from Ryan?
Like,
that, you know, the Proverbs don't teach. You know, like.
Hey, I mean, one thing I've learned in the whole media world is that you can't disc anybody. I mean, the person that gives you water on set or the craft food service person or anything like that could become the next big person that you're asking for a job down the road. So, you know, you never know. And just saying, you know, learning from Ryan, you're extremely talented and who knows what's going to happen in the future. So while we're allowed to know you before you own your private jet, just FYI, you know, I like to be able to sit in the back seat.
Man, just stay humble.
While we have you, are there any
just stay humble
like,
and you know, treat everyone with kindness and you know, like treat everyone the way you'd want to be treated. I mean, honestly, that is just a good life, you know, lesson in general. But I mean, honestly, yeah, just stay humble and never stop learning. Never stop learning, because it doesn't really matter how good you ever get. There's always going to be somebody better than you. And so you could always learn from them, you know, so just, always be humble. Never think of yourself as bigger than you are, I guess. Remember where you come from, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And just, you know, find what you love to do and do it with all of your might, you know? Yeah.
I love it. Thank you, Ryan, so much for being on our show. And for those of you, we're going to continue interviewing fantastic artists.
Oh
like
man,
Ryan,
that was so fun.
That
was
him.
So fun. Yeah, no,
he's going to have some really great things coming up. He just posted something about Halo. I think you were working on something with that. That was amazing, by the way. So if you guys haven't checked out his Instagram or all of his portfolio, you have YouTube and all kinds of things on Linktree. So check that out, because I mean, that's pretty amazing, by the way. So I just wanted to say that. I meant to say that earlier about the Halo, and I didn't. So, but yes, we'll have a follow up, and Ryan, I'm sure we'll have you back on here so you can tell us how your journey has progressed, and we'll be able to, so follow him, and then keep up with us guys, because we're going to be housing or having more people on our show. We've got Hollywood and Chicago prop master Ashley Flowers, who's going to be coming on. She makes some of the most real life props I've ever seen in my life. If you've seen like dead hands and it's great stuff. And then we've also got Hollywood voiceover actor Marcel Shepard, who will be coming on, and European animated film voiceover actor as well, Mac Griffin, coming on, and many, 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 many more people that will be coming on to the show. We're going to be hosting each week, so please follow along for that.
Awesome. Looking forward to it.
Like I said, Ryan, thank you so much for being on our show, and we will see you. Follow up with you soon. So thank you.
Right.
Absolutely. Take care, everybody. And Ryan, stay on just for a little bit longer, but we're going to see the rest of you guys next episode.